My parents disowned me because I was poor. Now they're homeless, and I'm the one ignoring calls. I never imagined I'd be the villain in my own family story. Not because I did something evil, but because I dare to be poor. They'll never say it out loud, of course. But when your parents start treating you like a charity case, when your siblings ignore your texts, and when your child at home suddenly feels like a stranger's house, the silence is louder than words. Let me start at the beginning, back when I was still worth something in their eyes. I was born into what most people would call a middle-upper-class family. My dad owned a small logistics company that took off in the early 2000s, and my mom worked part-time at a law firm mostly for appearances. She didn't need the money. We lived in a 5-bedroom house in a clean suburban neighborhood, had 2 cars, vacationed every summer, and put on the usual facade of togetherness for Facebook and family reunions. But under that glossy surface was a silent contract that none of us signed but all of us followed. Your value equals your income. I saw it from an early age. My oldest brother, Mark, became a surgeon. My parents practically bowed at his feet. My sister, Elaine, married a real estate developer. Not her high school sweetheart, but a better investment, as my mother actually said at one point. Then there was me, the youngest, the creative one, the writer, the weird kid who wanted to make documentaries and thought money wasn't everything. Spoiler alert, that philosophy didn't age well in my household. I graduated with a degree in media and communications. Not a gold mine, I know, but I was good. Landed a solid job at a marketing firm doing content strategy. Eventually moved into video campaigns. I was making okay money, not Mark-level cash, but enough to live in a city I loved and keep my independence. Then 2020 hit. COVID pulled the rug out from under everyone, and I was no exception. Layoffs started hitting my department, and I was among the second wave. No warning, no severance, just an email and a generic, "We appreciate your contributions." I thought I'd bounce back quickly. I had experience, a decent portfolio, and a few freelance gigs. But the market was brutal. Budgets were slashed, companies froze hiring, and overnight I went from young professional to liability. For 6 months, I scraped by with temp jobs, freelance gigs, and savings. I drained my 401k to pay rent, sold my camera gear, canceled everything from Netflix to health insurance. My life shrank into survival mode. I told my family, of course, I didn't want handouts, just support, encouragement. A phone call that didn't feel like a performance review. Instead, I got silence. Let me give you a taste of how those months went. Mom, on the phone. "Well, you chose a risky career, sweetie. Mark always said you should have gone into healthcare. At least that's recession-proof." Dad, via email. "I forwarded your resume to one of my old clients, but they're not really hiring creative types right now. Maybe look into coding." Elaine, my sister. "If you need to move back in for a few weeks, that's okay. But we'll need to talk about rent and chores." I never took her up on that offer. Something in her voice made it feel less like an invitation and more like a threat. The thing that really broke me, though, my nephew's birthday party. I was already ashamed to show up empty-handed. No gift, no card, nothing but a fake smile in my presence. And then I heard my mom whisper to Elaine, loud enough for me to catch. He could have at least tried. I mean, how long can someone coast on excuses? I left early that day. They didn't notice. The breaking point. By the end of that year, I was done. Not just financially, emotionally, spiritually, whatever you want to call it. I'd lost all sense of identity. My creative spark had been ground into dust by job boards, rejection emails, and the echo chamber of family disappointment. I stopped calling, stopped texting. I deleted our family group chat. For Christmas, I stayed home alone, heated up some frozen pasta, and watched reruns of Anthony Bourdain. Parts unknown until I fell asleep on the couch. And you know what? It was peaceful. No fake smiles. No judgment. No subtle jabs. Just me, silence, and the faint glow of a TV screen. I realized something important that night. They loved me for what I gave them, not for who I was. That truth hurt more than poverty ever could. I decided to cut them off. Not in some dramatic, scorched earth way. Just quietly. I stopped replying. I unfollowed them on social media. Changed my number. I let the distance grow like a wall of vines. Slowly, silently, until it was impenetrable. It's not like they begged me to stay. They barely noticed I left. The irony? In their eyes, I was a disappointment. The failure. The cautionary tale. But deep down, I knew I wasn't done. I wasn't going to stay at rock bottom. I didn't know how yet, but I would rebuild. Not to prove them wrong. Not anymore. That ship had sailed. This was for me. If I was going to rise, it would be on my own terms. The last time I heard from them, months later, I got an email from my dad. The subject line was, "Hope you're doing well." The body of the email was just a single line. "Your uncle passed. Service is on Saturday if you're around." "No, we miss you." "No, how have you been?" No warmth, no context, just a logistical memo. I didn't go. That email was the final nail in the coffin. They hadn't checked on me in nearly a year. For all they knew, I could have been homeless, sick, or worse. They didn't care. Because I had nothing to offer anymore. That was 3 years ago. 3 years since I last spoke to them. 3 years since I set foot in that house. 3 years since I started building something new, something better. Without them. Now, let's just say things have changed. They don't know it yet, but they're about to. And the best part? They're going to come crawling back. And when they do, I'll be waiting. Not out of spite, out of principle, out of survival, out of karma. When you hit rock bottom, you find out 2 things real fast. Who actually cares about you? What you're really made of. I'd already gotten the answer to the first one. Now it was time to figure out the second. I didn't have a 5-year plan. Hell, I barely had a 5-day plan. But I knew one thing for sure. I couldn't stay where I was. No money, no job, no family, no identity. So I started small. I got a job at a warehouse. $15 an hour, night shifts. No benefits, no future. Just lifting boxes, operating a forklift, and smelling like cardboard and diesel when I got home. It wasn't glamorous, but it was stable. For the first time in over a year, I had a paycheck I could count on, even if it barely covered rent in my crumbling 1-bedroom apartment. During the day, I taught myself. I took free courses online, marketing analytics, SEO, UX design, anything remotely tied to my past life in media. I read blog posts, downloaded PDFs, watched YouTube tutorials like they were gospel. The hustle wasn't sexy. No coffee shop laptop vibes. No rise and grind Instagram stories. Just me in a dim apartment with a secondhand Chromebook and a spiral notebook full of ideas. And then, one night during break at the warehouse, I had an idea. It started as a stupid experiment. I had just watched a video about passive income streams, dropshipping, affiliate marketing, digital products. 90% of it was BS, but one section caught my eye, niche content websites. The guy said, find a problem, solve it better than anyone else, monetize the traffic. It sounded simple, too simple, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. So I stayed up until 3 a.m. one night researching obscure niches, gardening for small apartments, pet food allergies, DIY air filtration, weirdly specific stuff. Eventually, I landed on one, indoor hydroponics for beginners. Apparently, there was a growing, pun intended, market for people who wanted to grow vegetables inside. No backyard needed. COVID had spiked interest, and no one was really covering the beginner space in a clean, digestible way. I bought a $12 domain name, growfreshnow.com. I used a $49 WordPress theme. Spent $39 on a basic logo from a freelancer. The rest, I wrote myself. Every blog post, every photo caption, every email sequence. I published 3 articles a week. All SEO optimized, all original, all painfully slow. For 2 months, nothing happened. Then Google started indexing me. My first day of traffic, 8 visitors, then 14, then 22. I still remember the day I hit 100 unique visitors. You would have thought I hit the lottery. Then came the first affiliate sale. Someone bought a $59 LED grow light through my Amazon link. I made $2.03. It felt like $1 million. I didn't touch that money. I let it sit and reinvested every cent into more content, better tools, and a freelance writer I found on Reddit who charged $25 per article and actually knew her stuff. The site grew, slowly, steadily, like a seed in the dark. By the end of the year, Grow Fresh Now was getting 25,000 monthly visitors. I was making $400 to $500 a month. Not enough to live on, but more than I ever thought possible from something I made while smelling like warehouse sweat and sadness. That site changed everything. Not because of the money, but because it proved I wasn't broken. I still had it in me. After that, I scaled. I started a second site, this one focused on budgeting tools for freelancers. Then a third, centered on ergonomic desk setups for remote workers. I repurposed content, used AI, sparingly carefully, to draft outlines, hired 2 more part-time writers, built backlinks, cross-promoted on social media, optimized for long-tail keywords. I was working 16-hour days, warehouse at night, websites by day, eating canned soup, sleeping 4 hours, running on adrenaline and spite. Then came the inflection point. One of my blog posts, Top 10 Hydroponic Kits for Small Apartments, got picked up by a Reddit thread that went viral. Traffic spiked. So did conversions. I made $1,200 in affiliate revenue in 1 week. That same week, I gave my 2-week notice at the warehouse. It was time to go full-time. Quitting that job felt like shedding a skin. I took every waking hour and dumped it into scaling, built a newsletter, launched a beginner's ebook, $9.99. It sold like crazy, started a YouTube channel, which flopped, but I learned a lot, and finally started consulting for other small niche site owners. By the end of year 2, I had 5 profitable websites and was making $7,000 to $10,000 a month, not just from ads and affiliate links, but from digital products, email funnels, and sponsorship deals. I formed an LLC, got a real accountant, bought a used BMW, and paid off all my debts. Moved to a nicer apartment with actual sunlight. Started lifting weights. Slept more than 4 hours a night. Most importantly, I felt human again. By year 3, I was fully in the green. Launched 2 new projects. One of them was a SaaS tool for managing affiliate commissions, built with a dev friend I met on a Discord server. That one started bringing in 5 figures monthly within 6 months. I started turning down consulting offers. Started traveling again. Started smiling again. I didn't tell a soul in my family. Not because I was hiding, but because they didn't deserve a front row seat to my comeback story. They weren't there when I needed a couch or a phone call or a damn text. They weren't there when I couldn't afford groceries. They weren't there when I spent Christmas alone, watching Bourdain and crying into a microwave dinner. Now, they would have to earn their way back in. And karma? Well, she was sharpening her knife. It began with a message from my sister, Elaine. Subject: Hey, stranger red heart. Hey, it's been a while. I hope you're doing well. Things have been a little rough on our end lately. I was wondering if we could catch up sometime. Maybe coffee? Let me know. I didn't reply. 2 weeks later, my mom texted me from a new number. Hi, honey. I know we haven't talked in a while. I miss you. Things are complicated right now. Your dad's business took a big hit, and we're trying to figure some things out. Call me. Still no reply. Then came Mark, my golden boy brother, the surgeon. Look, I know we weren't the closest, but you're still my brother. I think Mom and Dad regret how things went down. We should talk. And then the final twist. Also, I heard from someone that you're doing pretty well these days. Congrats. Let's connect soon. What they didn't know, at this point, I was making over $40,000 per month in passive income. I had just bought a 4-bedroom home in cash, in the same zip code as the house I grew up in. I owned 2 LLCs, a tech product, and a stake in a growing media company. I was mentoring 3 startup founders, and I had 0 debt, 0 ties, 0 obligations. They didn't know that I wasn't just doing well. I was thriving. But here's the thing. When you grow in silence, your success becomes your secret weapon. Now they were reaching out, confused, needy, and curious. And I was in a position I'd never been before. Powerful. There's a quiet kind of power in being forgotten. For a long time, I used to wish my family missed me, that they regretted how they treated me, that they'd one day realize they threw away something, someone valuable. But by the time the messages started flooding in, I no longer needed that. I had already built a life so full and grounded that their absence wasn't a wound anymore. It was a scar. Faded, healed, tougher than before. Still, when the outreach started trickling in, something dark and familiar stirred in me. Not hate, not revenge. Curiosity. I wanted to see who they were now, and more importantly, what they wanted. Because believe me, when people who once discarded you come crawling back, it's never just about reconciliation. It's about need. I didn't reply to the first few messages. Not out of pettiness, but out of control. I wanted to watch them squirm. I wanted to see how far they'd reached before they got desperate. 3 weeks after my sister's, "Hey, stranger red heart" message, she followed up, "I don't know if you're getting my text, but I really think we should talk. Things have been rough lately. Maybe I could come by and we could chat." Come by? She didn't even know where I lived. I had moved 3 times since I left that world. My address wasn't on LinkedIn. I use a registered agent for my LLCs. My online footprint was tight, on purpose. So I waited. 2 days later, she messaged again. Are you mad? I totally understand if you are. But Mom is really not doing well. And Dad's business is basically gone. Ah, there it was. The ask behind the ask. Not a direct plea for help, but a dangling breadcrumb. A way to lure me into their crisis. Still, I didn't respond. Then I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. Hey, it's Josh, Elaine's husband. She's really worried about you. Man, she said you've been kinda MIA. Just checking in. Josh, who once told me to barbecue, your little media thing is cool, but I'm sure you'll get a real job eventually. Josh, who used to chuckle every time I mention a freelance gig. Josh, whose Instagram bio once read, investor, father, alpha. I blocked the number.